Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the VSO Gun Channel. It's great to be here as always. Thank you for tuning in. And today we're talking about ATF director, specifically Brandon Herrera for ATF director. At first, I thought this was a joke and this was just the internet doing something. And then I went and actually looked, and I'm pretty sure that Brandon is serious. All I can say is, please, baby Jesus, I don't ask you for many things, but if you would do this thing for me. But seriously, all joking aside, Brandon Herrera isn't just an internet personality and meme lord. He is also someone who has run a congressional campaign, almost knocking off an incumbent Republican in Texas. He is hyper organized. He has been in the firearms industry as long as I have. He's also a business owner and a federal firearms licensee, specifically manufacturing 0702. So he knows the ins and outs of dealing with that apparatus of government. And I think that he would be a great pick in helping dismantle some of the trash that has filled that agency. Now, remember, you have the power, and we've got a little bit of time because we would expect an announcement of ATF director to happen down the road after Attorney General has been picked, and then the Attorney General would likely advise. So what I want you to do is go make an X account. If you haven't made one already, you're wrong, but go make an X account, repost my post about Brandon Herrera for ATF director, and tag Donald Trump and Elon Musk in it. Make it go all over the internet. If 400,000 people were to quote tweet Donald Trump, this is who we want for ATF director, I think the man's got to listen. At least I hope that he would. But anyway, what I'm saying is we have an opportunity here, folks. And what I want to do with the second half of this video is talk about some ideas that I have that Brandon should implement, or any ATF director should implement should they find themselves in that position. And I have specifically not contacted Brandon about this because I don't want to air any of his ideas that he has currently floating around up there. That and more after we hear a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by First Form. First Form is a pro-American, pro-freedom supplement company. You probably eat way too much crap and not enough protein. So First Form's mission is to put more protein in your face hole. Now, the thing that I've been using a whole lot lately are their meat sticks. Now, these things are a 20 gram of protein stick. It doesn't need to be refrigerated. It doesn't have any weird whey or any stuff like that. It is made out of meat. If you check them out using my link in the link tree or on the affiliates page, and that tells them that I sent you, and that helps out the channel. So special thanks to First Form for making today's video possible. Well, you might say, Kurt, why not just disband the organization outright? And I hear what you're putting down. That sounds great. However, there are certain provisions of law that will literally take an act of Congress to unwind. And currently, the way that that works is those certain things that we don't really care for very much are interwoven with ATF operations. If ATF were to just be disbanded right now, those duties would then be dispersed throughout the rest of the government. And I think that probably right now, the best way to handle that is to put somebody in charge of the ATF, have them hamstring and destroy as much stuff as they possibly can until we have an opportunity to get that stuff out of the Code of Federal Regulations, right? And there are several things that an ATF director that is sympathetic to the Second Amendment's cause could do to further the Second Amendment movement going forward should none of that stuff actually happen with Congress. And the first thing that I suggest that Brandon do as soon as he walk in to office is take every single person who works at the ATF's guns away. I know that that sounds perfectly fitting, right? Remember, if you are a government employee, you are an agent of the government. And last I checked, agents of the government are not mentioned in the Bill of Rights. You might think that that's a joke. I'm serious. Like, you fix like 90% of the problems with the ATF if you take the guns away. Enforcement immediately evaporates. Think about it. You can't break into Brian Malinowski's house at 6 o'clock in the morning and murder him in front of his wife. You can't shoot a mother holding her child in the chest with a rifle. You can't burn down a compound, and you can't walk in and shoot people's dogs if you don't have any guns. Speaking of dogs, you can just go ahead and go over to Doge and tell Elon that ATF is no longer going to be doing any direct law enforcement activities, and they'll refer all of their requests to somebody else. The second thing that he ought to do when he walks in there is, we know out of the ATF's own mouth that they have these containers scattered around the country where they keep all of the out of business records. In my opinion, illegally, but nobody has really called them on the keeping of the paper records. And I would also say that it's pretty clear to me that they also have a digitized registry somewhere of those records. Both of those things ought to be subject of a bonfire immediately. And on top of that, I would also submit a directive to all federal firearms licensees that if you are caught in possession of business records, firearms transaction records that are older than 20 years, that it will be an infraction on your license, and we recommend that you burn those immediately. The third thing that I would do has to do with FATD, the technical branch of the ATF, the people who make the determinations whether this is a machine gun, this is a short barrel rifle. Rescind and destroy all record of any previous determination by FATD. Fire every single person that works there and make them reapply, and replace that apparatus of government with a board that makes the decisions, co-equal members of the board, and those people must have distinguished firearms industry experience of at least 10 years or more. And then the last thing that I would do on day one is reform the way the NFA is processed. We can't get rid of the NFA without an act of Congress, but we can change the way the ATF handles the NFA. We move to a presumptive approval process. That means you submit your Form 1 or your Form 4, and it is assumed that since you went through the process of paying $200 and submitting your fingerprints, a headshot, and a form with all of your data on it, that you're going to pass, or you have a reasonable assumption that you're going to pass. And if something goes bad with it, then we come back and recoup it after the fact, just like we do with 4473s. When it comes to the federal firearms licensees side of things, you submit your Form 4, right? They then conduct a background check on you right then. We don't send it away to the FBI and wait for them to do some backwater background check that takes too long and is overly intrusive. We don't wait for them to do their job and drag their feet. We do the background check right there, right now. We already have to fill out a 4473 for you anyway. If you've never done an NFA item before, you have to submit the Form 4 to the ATF, and then when you pick your item up after the Form 4 is completed, there still needs to be a firearms disposition record that is filled out at the federal firearms licensee. And that basically, that is a record for, like me, if you picked up a can, I moved this item off of my books into citizen possession, right? The paperwork already exists. We just do the background check immediately and somebody leaves with their item. Presumptive approval of NFA items is how I would start processing that. And because we basically fired a whole bunch of people and took their guns away, they no longer have anything to do, and now they can spend all of their time finalizing the records that they have a huge backlog on. The ATF should be a convenience store, not a government agency. If you have other ideas that you would like to see Brandon implement when he comes into power, please sound off in the comment section down below. And Brandon, buddy, if you find yourself into a position of power like that, call me. I'd love to help.